Ladies and gentlemen, right now is a good time to start writing. Pre-Columbian Indian Culture. We're going to take a look at the Paleo-Indians and classical Indian civilizations and Indians in their Roman age. I probably ought to rewrite that subtitle because we're not going to go into Meso-Indians. That would take another 2 days. Though that is quite interesting in itself, we are going to focus on North American natives, but we will touch a little bit in Meso native culture, but not much. I'm sure you have. So if you want to go into details and take Garcia's Spanish cultures. So, question for you.
Wait, I wasn't done.
Got to be fast. Welcome to my class.
Yeah, bro, you don't back up.
And, ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, these notes are on the class website. So if you missed something, or if you want to go hear the lecture again, you can go back to it. What do you think of, or what image do you have when you think of the word Indian or Indians? Say again, Mia. Think of your family. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be tolerated. Not going to work in this class. Mia has the floor. She's answering the question. Go. Okay, they're from the Blackfeet? Okay, down. Are they in southern Idaho? Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Okay. So you think of your family. Okay, anybody else? How they survived? And explain, what do you mean by survival? Living off of nothing? Would they agree with that? That they lived off of nothing? Okay, using natural resources that they find out and about. Okay, fair enough. Anybody else? When you think of Indians, what comes to mind?
Have you seen the Magnificent Seven?
Is that what comes to mind?
There's an Indian in there.
Is that what comes to mind, that image?
Yeah,
Okay,
just him.
okay. Well, how about this? None of your answers are incorrect. But does this maybe come up in your mind? No? Yeah, more or less. To a lot of people, yes. We think of them as dressed up like this. They were definitely considered uncivilized. We're going to talk about why that was. Not saying that they were uncivilized. Certainly, from a European perspective, they were, but we're going to talk about that. But some people see them like this. Or that's the image. Some people see it as this. The Lone Ranger and Tonto. In the 1950s, when this was popular, 50s and 60s, a lot of people see natives like this.
Tonto's awesome.
Dude, Tonto's an Indian one.
The Lone Ranger is the guy with the mask.
Do you know what an Indian is?
Yeah, it's like the guy that left. Oh my.
That's the nice man.
Well, what about this girl? Pocahontas, right? How many have seen Pocahontas? Yeah, a lot of you, yeah. By the way, the whole Disney story's Bull, yes.
I learned about it like real. I'm like, wow, she was that young and she married like a 30-year-old.
Yeah. That was very common too back then.
She married a guy in her tribe.
Her second marriage was John Smith.
I was going to say John Smith came by later.
No, he died. There was really no such thing as divorce in their cultures. Well, probably got sick, because as we're going to find out here. In reality, the pre-Columbian Indians were very diverse. Now, one thing we have to distinguish here is a vocabulary word, America, or Americas. The America and Americas is referred to as all of North and South America. When it's Americas, it's both North and South America. Not the United States. The United States of America does not exist yet and will not for another almost 300 years. North and South America was referred to as the Americas. I will make a distinction when we're talking about the regions as North American natives or North American Indians or South American. So you understand kind of the difference. There is a difference. No. Between North and South. Understand when we're talking about Americas, we're referring to as North and South America. Just as there are major people groups in the world, the American Indians were going through a major change in their own culture. Any idea when we say pre-Columbian period, what are we referring to? But when did Christopher Columbus come? 1492, that's right. This is before 1492. During this time period, they were going through major changes within their culture. Like in Europe, or it's like as if Europe had a full invasion of its people around 500 AD. Okay, 500 AD in Europe, they were very primitive. So when the Europeans arrive, the natives to them, because the Europeans are so much more advanced at this point, look to them as if they were very uncivilized. It's like they're going through their own dark age that the Europeans had already gone through 1,000 years earlier. And technically the dark ages for the Europeans were 1200s, 1300s, but the point is, the natives are where the Europeans were in about 500 AD. The invaders began at the height of their advancement. They were going against people who were at their lowest. Almost like if we went into battle with our military today against the British Army of 1776. Or even maybe worse, using aircraft against people with sticks and stones. That's the kind of divide between the capability of both civilizations, European civilization and what we call Western civilization and the native civilization. Huge difference between the two. Now this dark age created a confusing situation for the early Europeans and West Africans who arrived here. They saw complex languages and complex building projects. But they were in ruins. And they looked at the people who were living and they're like, how did these people do this? They couldn't have. They seen evidence of a very complex society, but they don't see the people who created it. I'll explain why here after you write this down. We'll do it through pictures. Cortez, they believed he was the white god that was promised to come back to punish them for their wrongdoings, particularly for human sacrifices. That's what I meant, Aztecs, yes. Well, Cortez is the ones that conquered the Aztecs.
I just have to give age level.
Hard to stay woke.
You actually like.
You woke up and, hey, I know this one. All right, still see pencils scribbling away, smoke coming up from the tips. You done there, Mia? Okay. Hannah? Sam? What's that? Okay. So, for example, we have the, and I'm not going to say this word right, probably Miamisburg Mound. Say it again. Miamisburg. It's located in, of course, Miamisburg, Ohio. It's one of the largest conical mounds in North America. It is a burial mound built by people that archaeologists have called the Oneida culture, somewhere around 800 BC to 100 AD. The natives that live in this area, when Europeans arrived, certainly did not build this monster hill. Some other native group did.
Oh, I think they like there was a bunch of bodies.
There's bodies in there. That's a burial mound.
Like, there's a pile of bodies and like it covers it. There's like some dirt under or something.
There's bodies in there, but that's all dirt. Probably the bodies are in the ground, and then they moved all that dirt. That thing is, I don't know, 100 feet high, 200 feet high. So think about natives who don't have shovels. They don't have buckets that we think of as buckets. How did they do that? Well, the Indian culture that was living at the time when the Europeans arrived did not do that. Some other Indian culture did, but not the group that was living there at the time. Much older, yeah, 800 BC. Yeah, well, some make that argument. Here's another one, the Serpent Mound. This one is in Adams County, Ohio. It's thought to have been built by the Fort Ancient culture around 1000 to 1600 AD. I could not find the length of it.
Oh, well, watch Ancient Aliens.
But if you look, see the people walking along the walkway. You know, if the average person's 5'8", 6 foot tall, you get an idea how long that ridge is and how wide that is. That's pretty good size. Again, for an ancient people, keep in mind, through the eyes of the Europeans when they first arrived there, which would have been French, they're going, what in the world? These people couldn't have did this. What's going on? Got the Monk's Mound. It's in Illinois. It's by volume, and it's the 5th largest pyramid monument in the world. Ultimately, more than 100 feet tall, the Monk's Mound was constructed and maintained between 900 and 1300 AD. It served as an elevated platform on which the home of the ruler lived. Don't know. Effectively, it was the capital of a powerful indigenous political and economic entity. Those who made this do not exist when Europeans arrive. The Fort Ancient Earthworks, a series of earthen embankments that extend for more than 3.5 miles along a high bluff along the Little Miami River in southwestern Ohio. The earthworks were built by the Hopewell culture between 100 BC and 400 AD. It is a Latin. It's the year of our Lord, referring to approximately, so BC ends approximately when Christ was born. And the year of our Lord, being Latin, is marking the start of the new age. Nowadays, you will hear it called BCE and CE, because heaven forbid should we mention Christ in anything. And so they have the marker is the same, the birth of Christ. They just don't mention Christ. BC is before Common Era, and CE is Common Era. But the starting points are all the same. What's that?
It looks like a person with big old feet.
Looks like something. I don't know what it is, but The point is, the people that are living when the Europeans arrived did not do this. All right. So who are the American Indian? Now we're going to refer to North American Indian. Well, not quite yet. Let me rephrase that. The American Indian should be the Americas, or Indians in the Americas, because this all begins, even for the natives in the South America, starts the same way. But the question is that where? It should be where. That should not be where. Were they always living in the Americas? Were these indigenous people always living in North and South America? That's a question, not rhetorical. Have they always lived here? Maybe? No? Anybody think yes? Okay. The answer is no. They have not always lived here. They did come from somewhere else. But how did they get here? Where did they come from is one question we need to answer. And then how did they get here is the second. It's all testable. All right. Not all of that should have come up at once. Oh well. So we have what has been the traditional, or what we now can call the old view of migration. This is the story that I grew up with, your parents grew up with, your grandparents grew up with, maybe even great-grandparents grew up with in public school. It dominated the 20th century. That is, during the Clovis period, big game crossed over into North America through the Bering Land Bridge from Asia, approximately 15,000 years ago. Now, for those of you who hold to a New Earth view, I understand that would not make sense. But this being public school, we have to teach it from the accepted Old Earth view. So 15,000 years ago, these big game Clovis animals came across into North America. Asians, mostly from Mongolia, today's North Korea, and northern China, followed the game. And about 12,000 years ago, a corridor opened up, enough ice melted. We can call it global warming without man-caused. Interesting. Enough ice melted that opened up a passageway that people could walk all the way down into north, what we call the United States, down into Central America, and eventually down into South America. So if you know anything about geography, the Bering Land Bridge that name comes from the Bering Strait, which is a slice of ocean